Concerns around cost of living dominates this month as the latest Sunday Independent Ireland Thinks poll show the public has punished the government parties over its response to the energy crisis. We also find out what voters think of former Taoiseach and Fine Gael leader Leo Varadkar's recent comments around rural Ireland being subsidised by urban Ireland. Joining me now to discuss all of that is pollster with Ireland Thinks, Kevin Cunningham. Kevin, thanks for joining us. Let's just dive in, I suppose, the state of the parties a bit, will we? I mean, Sinn Féin, there's no movement. They're still on 22. Fine Gael unchanged on 17. The notable ones, however, I suppose, are Fianna Fáil dropping by 2. And Independent Ireland and Aontú, who were, I suppose, the strongest and most vocal around the fuel protests, jumping to a record high.
Yeah, Independent Ireland up to 9%. That's up 3 points. In Aontú up to 7. That's also their highest that they've ever had, which is combining those two parties at 16. That's pretty similar to Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael together. And it's interesting because it does reflect this whole rural-urban dynamic. What's even more significant, I guess, in some respect, is that Micheál Martin's approval rating is down 6 to 33. That puts him in third place behind Mary Lou McDonald, I think for the first time in a couple of years. Simon Harris's approval rating is also down 3 to 31. That puts him sort of joint fourth, down with Ivana Bacik. We also polled Catherine Connolly, who's actually a little bit more popular than the political leaders. But yeah, so the leaders of the parties are down, and their party support levels are relatively stable. Now that's unusual because usually these sorts of things are connected. People who like a party like a leader, and that's, you know, their feelings on the party are connected to their feelings of the leaders. The thing about this, and the reason why this is a decline, is I think outside of the party, the kind of general sense that the government, people were satisfied with Micheál Martin and Simon Harris, there seems to be more polarisation, I think. And I think this polarisation around the rural-urban divide maybe is sharpening things further, because you've got questions where we ask people whether they think, whether they approve or disapprove of how the government is handling its job, and we've 67% disapproval. Now, I think that might be the highest we have, but I'd have to double check that.
And the obviously cost of living again has jumped up by 2 points to the biggest issue, perhaps not surprisingly. Just on the party leader aspect, there's two things that I thought were interesting. One on what you were saying there. While the party support has remained relatively stable and Fianna Fáil seem to be punished more by voters this month, is there an element here where we're seeing, because the fuel protests became quite personalised, right, and Simon Harris and Micheál Martin were out front and centre, and, you know, their reaction, particularly I think Micheál Martin's reaction, came in for a lot of criticism. So there's probably part of that playing into it. But also, the Sinn Féin, I suppose, impact here is not really being seen. The party's support remains the same. They're still the most popular, but they haven't gone up. And Mary Lou McDonald's popularity has only gone up 1. Now, this was the party that was hammering the government constantly over the cost of living and effectively sided with the fuel protesters and put forward a no-confidence motion. Why have they not seen a jump?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably two things there. So the question, I guess, the answer to this is that there are some Sinn Féin voters who are going towards Independent Ireland and Aontú. That is happening. At the same time, Sinn Féin are obviously gaining voters for other reasons because of the cost of living. So they are pushing the issue, they're driving it, and they're holding steady, I think, as a result. So they're not obviously benefiting to the same extent. And I think this is because it's a certain type of voter that seems to be moving in this direction. It tends to be rural, tends to be... I mean, Sinn Féin used to do very well amongst rural people on lower incomes. And it seems that these parties are now picking up a lot of that vote. They are more conservative political parties, and the voters that vote for them tend to be more conservative on other issues. So we have a question in here which asks about the issue of abortion and the 3-day wait and those sorts of changes. Like, there's a very sharp difference between parties on the left and parties on the right in this respect. Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael voters are quite centred on this issue, but you can see there's big differences between the Independent Ireland voter and the Sinn Féin voter. So my point is that it's a kind of a fundamental thing where these voters tend to be more conservative, I think, really. But the rural Ireland aspect... Yeah,
let's just touch on that a little bit, because, I mean, this is kind of one of the dominant themes. You mentioned that rural-urban divide in this month's poll, and you asked questions following Leo Varadkar's comments, as we mentioned in the intro there, somewhat ham-fisted comments, some would argue he made around rural Ireland being subsidised by urban Ireland getting lots of grants and all that, etc. And the findings would show that the vast majority reject his comments or his assertion around that, don't they?
Yes, they do. So the question asked was, do you think rural Ireland gets a fair deal from the state? Well, there was actually two questions. Do you think rural Ireland gets a fair deal from the state, or does it get more support than it deserves? 44% say it gets less than its fair share, and 34% about its fair share. Just 16 saying more than its fair share. The other question, if I find it somewhere
Do
here.
you think taxpayers in towns and cities are unfairly subsidising rural Ireland? There's no 72%.
Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, no, 72%. Yeah. So and that's interesting when you break it down by urban areas. It still shows that most people, even in the cities, believe that they're not necessarily getting unfair subsidy. I would say when you break this down even further, right, into sort of Dublin versus the rest of the country, and then cross-section that according to income levels, that's when you end up with the bigger difference. So higher income people in Dublin are much more likely to believe that taxpayers are unfairly subsidising rural Ireland.
Sure.
And that's just a very small subset of the Irish population as a whole. And I think actually just one of the big things more generally about this dynamic and about the fuel protests and these questions is that there is a sort of, I hate to say it, but there is a Dublin sort of elite sort of thing in terms of perhaps where the government has been misled maybe in that direction that they've gone, because it doesn't necessarily represent the broader views in Ireland, I would say.
And this is the sort of, not unlike what you're seeing around some Sinn Féiner voters going to the likes of Independent Ireland and Aontú. Traditionally a lot of rural voters were Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael's base. But if you look at the findings that you presented here, I mean, in many ways perhaps not surprising, but I mean 88% of Independent Ireland voters said no when they're asked, do you think taxpayers in towns and cities are unfairly subsidising Ireland? And then it goes down similarly, Aontú 86, Sinn Féin 74, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Social Democrats, Labour and the Green Party and People for Profit.
It's the same dynamic that you'd expect. It's kind of a Dublin, or it's an urban, rural and cross-section by income, if you look into the actual detail of this. There are clearly different groups of people in Ireland, they're coalescing around political parties now. There's a much more clearer sense of the relationship between people's personal circumstances and the political parties that they're voting for. And I think that's very clear. Historically speaking, people in Ireland voted according to their family tradition or identities and that sort of stuff. That sort of stuff has broken down to some extent. I mean, you are left with this Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael in the middle. What's interesting in some respects is for many years, I think recently, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael would often describe themselves as being in the centre, centrist parties, and academics would generally regard them as a centre-right political party in the context of that. And it does appear to be the case increasingly that if you were to look at the middle of the electorate, that is kind of where Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael actually are. That there is a kind of a centre-left and a left to their left. There is a kind of Independent Ireland and Aontú to the right of them.
And then I suppose just a bit of further food for thought for the government. There was a question around how the public and people were polled evaluate the government's efforts to address the fuel costs issue. And only 9% said they've done too much. 27 said they've done the right amount, and 48, almost half, said they have not done enough. This is tying into the whole debate around energy credits, a mini budget, prepay hiking their energy prices today. We're heading to warmer weather. The government will hope, look, this will clear off. But
now, look, one of the things about this question I think is interesting, because if you're to do this in previous cases where people talk about budgets and announce things, I think, again, it is the material cost. I probably say this way too often, but it is the material impact of it when this sort of stuff, when people start to change their minds. I think once these things start to get introduced and actually get implemented, that's when perspectives do change. Now, the problem is that, you're fighting against a bit of a tide here. The general understanding is that the oil prices are going to continue to have, an impact.
Sure.
And that impact is going to increase. So how the government manages that in this context, or managing expectations, or, is definitely a big significant challenge.
Talk to me a little bit about the Ukrainian questions. I thought they were quite interesting, some of the findings, because we had this week the government effectively signalling a roadmap for the winding down of supports like the ARP payment. as well as ending contracts for 16,000 Ukrainians who arrived here effectively pre-2024. And the question is, okay, overall, have Ukrainians contributed positively? More than half, 55, said yes. Only 22 saying no. But then in another question, do you believe the government is right or wrong to start winding down financial supports or accommodation supports to Ukrainian? Fairly overwhelming majority backed it, didn't they?
Yeah, so people think that the government is right in doing this. They think that it should return to tourism use. That's kind of understanding in some respects, and people don't necessarily believe that it'll fix the housing crisis. I think there's a sense of what you can draw from this is that it's probably more of a sense of unfairness about the whole thing when it is reflected on the housing crisis. So that there is and it does tie into the cost of living, it does tie into housing and all this sort of stuff, how people are kind of struggling, obviously, are going to see these sorts of measures as being unfair when they might, Now, it has to be emphasised that there is another question there. Overall, have Ukrainians contributed positively to Irish society since moving here? For which 55% say yes, 22% say no, and 22% not sure. The point of that question, I guess, is to emphasise that there isn't this overwhelming anti-Ukrainian sentiment, although there is some.
It seems to be the public largely back this regularisation, and the government have pointed that we're out of step with European countries. We know the temporary protection directives coming to an end in March. It may be extended, but with major tweaks, I suspect, to it. Talk to me a little bit just on this question of Catherine Connolly. Okay?
Yeah.
So we've asked, what do you think about President Catherine Connolly's performance since she took office?
Yeah. So so this was whether people strongly approve, disapprove, or strongly disapprove. It's 18% strongly approve, 27% approve. That's 45%, and then disapprove 20, strongly disapprove 20. That's 40%. So. Yeah, it's... Bear
in mind, I suppose, look, she's very early in her term. She's 6 months. She's been, I suppose you could say, gradually more outspoken recently with some of her commentary, as well as convening the Council of State over the International Protection Bill. But is there an element here with the combined 40 disapprove, strongly disapprove, that they would just be people who wouldn't have voted for her in the first place?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. There are people who probably wouldn't have voted for her in any case. It's worth contrasting her a little bit with Michael D. Higgins. So we have a question here which is indicating your approval, disapproval of the leaders overall. This is our usual asking people to rank, give them a score on a basis of 0 to 10, and then we multiply that score by 10, the average score, to give you a kind of a nice figure to understand. So for Catherine Connolly, it's 47. Now, she's well ahead of the other political party leaders, but notably, if you compare her figures against, say, Michael D. Higgins, who would have gotten up in the 60s quite easily, she's not as popular as Michael D. Higgins was. She's definitely more divisive, I guess, or at least not divisive. She has supporters and detractors in almost equal measure, although I would say more supporters than detractors, I guess. But she's a little bit more polarising, I guess, for people. It's probably a better way of putting it. And you can see that in the approval figures that like there are people who dislike her, but. Overall, she is a popular politician. She's more popular than any of the political leaders leading any of the political parties.
Yes.
So, it's not that she's particularly unpopular, and the government's disapproval rating is obviously significantly larger than that of hers, so.
Yeah, okay, so let's...
You have to put it in that context. She is more popular than the government, so,
There's lots in this. There's really quite a lot to kind of pick apart in this month's poll, but let's just finish a little bit, I think, on Fianna Fáil.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of observations that I would have. Just on the party leader, because I'm not sure if we pointed out, but like Micheál Martin, as you said, actually has dropped 6. It's very significant. And obviously we have the question, as we often ask, when should he stand down? As leader, not a huge amount of change there now. Right now, 46% now saying he should stand down right now. 38 November 2027, when Fianna Fáil rotates the Taoiseach's office. He should lead Fianna Fáil into the next general election. 12, he should remain as leader indefinitely. 4. I just using those findings as a jumping off point to the final discussion point, which really is one of the standout figures from, I think, this month's poll, which is who do you believe should be the next leader of Fianna Fáil?
Yeah, so we did this in November 2025. Remember, that was in the context of the presidential election. Back then, Jim O'Callaghan was on 60, followed by Jack Chambers 17, Dara Cleary was 8, Norma Foley 7, Dara Bryan 7. So, and then you had James Lawless a little bit lower again, right? So that's Jim O'Callaghan 60 and quite a long way ahead of anyone else. This latest poll, Jim O'Callaghan's down to 38 amongst the general public.
The public have soured on the Justice Minister.
Yes, in some respects, yes. I mean, you have to bear in mind that he is still the most popular by another 21% still, although he's not as popular. Like, the margin of his advantage maybe went from, 43% to 27%.
Sure.
So his support has fallen substantially, but he's still the most popular. I did break this down by the Fianna Fáil voters as well themselves, and for Fianna Fáil voters, he was up at 50. So it might be the case that his support has soured in particular outside of the Fianna Fáil core. Now remember, outside of the Fianna Fáil core is actually quite important as
It'll influence things, absolutely.
Because, the party obviously wants to grow. So it's not like you completely disregard it. But obviously the Fianna Fáil core vote is probably quite important in this regard in terms of holding on to the existing vote. Because what can happen when you change leader is that they usually attract some new voters and lose some others, right? Because whomever the current leader is, so Micheál Martin has a certain number of supporters who support the party because Micheál Martin's a leader, and any change of leader will reduce the party support on some level. But it's a matter of what new people the new person brings in, I guess.
Just we'll go through.
And obviously, it's related to the field protests.
And sorry, let's just remind listeners, viewers, I should say, around a large part of why this is happening was what was seen as his balls up around bringing in the army effectively, and the army never showed up, and coming out and announcing that, and being seen even within the government to have potentially escalated, and certainly.
I wouldn't say it was about the army not showing up, but rather probably escalation. The
escalation, exactly, and the more hardline elements of the protesters digging their heels in as a result of what was seen to be his public commentary and his announcement on that Thursday morning, or Wednesday morning, I think it was. So he's gone down significantly. Jack Chambers still on 17, so no change there, and there's question marks over whether he would even go for it at this point. But interestingly, while there's been maybe a 3 jump for Norma Foley and Dara Bryan, and we've thrown James Brown in there for the first time, so obviously that may be eating into Jim's vote a little bit.
Yeah.
But Dara Cleary's up to 15.
6. Yeah, Dara Cleary is the one most significant gain. I mean, I think across the board you're just seeing other people lift because maybe the souring, as you described it. But Dara Cleary's obviously gone up most significantly by 7 points. I don't know why. Why do you think that's the case?
Why is Dara gone up? Look, I think there's a feeling in the Fianna Fáil party he has that rural aspect of it that Jim and Dara O'Brien don't have.
Yeah.
He's also been around a very long time. He's very hands-on with the grassroots. He's seen as capable, perhaps maybe not the most exciting potential leader in the world, but maybe that's not what Fianna Fáil, or maybe that is what some quarters of Fianna Fáil want for the future. And he's also, what would be interesting now is Dara Cleary is the Director of Elections for the Galway West by-election. Dara O'Brien's the Director of Elections for the Dublin Central by-elections. And I think all of these findings will give a lot of food for thought for all the political parties and all the candidates going out and pounding the pavements over the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, and sometimes there can be a connection between the person who's the Director of Elections and the relative success of that particular election campaign. We saw last November, obviously, Jack Chambers was connected to the presidential election, and to some extent his credibility, some people would have argued, was damaged a little bit through his connection to that particular campaign.
Yeah, sure. Kevin, thanks so much for joining us. For all those findings and more, pick up the Sunday Independent or see independent.ie.